couples who have broken up because of a third person that did not involve cheating. What happened? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I was dating a girl a few years ago who was fairly heavily tattooed, as I am. My mom made a few disparaging comments about women and tattoos while I wasn't around. When I found out, I called my mom and demanded that she pick up the phone and call my GF and apologize to her. That texting would not be good enough. Call and apologize for real. She did. My ex appreciated it, and I respected my mom for doing it. All of our parents are just people. They will make mistakes just like we'll make mistakes. I'll never understand people who cannot talk to their parents like equals. Boggles my mind. Story 2. Teenage girlfriend. She would constantly talk about her best friend and how great he is. She was genuinely in love with him but wouldn't admit it. So I asked him what he thought about her, and he was also in love with my girlfriend. So I went to my girlfriend the next day and broke up and had a little fight over it. I told her all about how I know she is in love with her best friend, but is too afraid to ask him out because she fears he doesn't reciprocate and doesn't want to ruin the friendship. Then I told her that he is also in love with her and feared the same thing. That was 15 years ago today, and I know they're still together. I'm happy for them. Story 3. Single co-workers. We married young, 2 kids by 23 years of age. I was working 55-60 HRS a week. Her only friends were her 4 co-workers who were single and in their early 20s also. A once-a-week girls' night out became 2 nights. Then happy hours added. Then a girls' weekend became a toxic pattern. She stopped talking to her parents, who saw it developing as well. She left when our kids were 4 and 6 years of age, packed her stuff and moved in with one of her co-workers. Once the kids got into high school, she suddenly wanted to be involved with them. Story 4. Not just a third person, but a whole friend group. They knew everything about me, even though I didn't share much about myself. We had an argument. They knew. I was out with friends. They knew. I was on my period. They knew. I had a bad day at work. They knew. Sex life, or lack of. We had only dated a few weeks. They knew. They would start showing up at my usual hangouts to keep an eye on things because they didn't like that my friend group was co-ed. I would be downtown and happen to run into them. I would be at work and see them walking by multiple times a day. I understand sharing things with your friends, but there's a line. When your friends are just as involved in the relationship as you're so, it causes issues fast. Take a clingy boyfriend, multiply that by 6, and it's terrifying. Story 5. I was in a long-distance relationship with the eldest son of a family from the south of Italy for 3 years. I am not Italian. Italians reading this already know where this is going. We met in Milan when I was there for work and he was visiting friends. We would try to meet once a month, in my country and different cities in Italy. After some time, he invited me to meet his family and we started to stay at his family's house. To say his mother wasn't a fan is an understatement. Loved his dad though, great man. I didn't really speak Italian. I took lessons, but their accent made it hard to follow. She would occasionally burst into our room, screaming her head off at me in Italian, me deer in headlights, hide or take my stuff, and make things difficult. Knowing that we would have to take her in later in life, him being the eldest son and traditions being what they are, made it easier for me when it ended. Story 6. I was dating a divorced single mom. Her ex-husband was petty as all hell. Anytime we had something special planned, he would decide that was the perfect time to drum up drama, or discuss amending their co-parenting agreement, and so on. She was a good mom, but had no boundaries where her ex was concerned. After several months, I realized that our relationship was third in line behind her kids and her ex. Kids coming first is fine, but that wasn't for me, so I kindly broke it off. We never spoke again, so I do not know if she ever enacted reasonable boundaries, or if he is still sabotaging her still to this day. Story 7. My ex-GF slapped me across the face one day out of the blue. I warned her if that ever happened again, the relationship was done. Fast forward a few weeks and we were at my friend's birthday party. Lo and behold, one of my friend's friends, who I had hung out with a couple times, revealed to me she was an ex of his. He then explains that she was fucking bonkers and would get violent often enough. So after a week or two, I broke up with her. Thanks, Bill, if you're out there. Saved me a lot of trouble. Story 8. Her son. He was 9. He was a brat and would bully other kids. We went to a birthday party and he punched another kid and I got mad at him and made him sit with me the rest of the party. Well, his mom lost her shit and told me I'm not allowed to discipline his son and that I am not his father. I broke up with her right there and glad I did. Her kid ended up in juvie for stabbing someone. Story 9. I gave a negative review of Rock of Ages starring Tom Cruise. I used to gig movie reviews back in the day, and my ex's best friend was obsessed with Tom Cruise. I made a critical comment of him and it ignited a fury in her. She told the girl I was seeing it was either me or her. If she was going to date someone who hated Tom Cruise, then she wouldn't be her friend anymore. She chose her friend. No, this wasn't high school. Story 10. Every guy she has ever dated had cheated on her. Her grandfather cheated on her grandmother, and her father cheated on her mother, this one while we were together. As a result, she was incredibly insecure and made me cut out all of my female friends. I started to feel like I was walking on eggshells around any women, including cashiers at the supermarket, even when I was alone. She got mad about one of my neighbors being friendly to me a couple of times, not like in a secret side conversation. I mean, while my neighbors, a couple, and my ex and I were all in a group chat. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. We had a fight about it. I took a week away, talked to friends, family, and my therapist, and realized I had been developing secondary trauma from it all, and ended it. I still loved her, but it was fucking me up. I found out through the grapevine that she was eventually diagnosed with PTSD, for all the cheating and a history of abuse too, is getting professional help, and she's with a new guy. Hopefully she's doing okay. Story 11. I had a boyfriend who was extremely insecure. His bros kept telling him he could do better than me because I was not conventionally attractive. He dropped me on their advice. I guess he found out he was not the chick magnet he thought he was. He begged me to take him back, but I said I didn't want anyone who was so easily led and flaky. This was a 35-year-old man. Story 12. His mentally ill brother. To make a long story short, his brother insisted on living independently and far away from us. He was never able to properly care for his health, mental or physical, and was continually getting into situations where my partner had to leave for long periods to fix things and care for his brother. It ruined my partner's career, drained our finances, and left my partner totally emotionally depleted. Story 13. She had a psycho mother who would poke her head into every aspect of our relationship. At one point, her mom was going to work and watching me on the security cameras from the time I woke up until I went to work or bed. I only found out later. It was so when I left, she would bring my girlfriend, at the time's ex, over to try and force me out of the situation. He was abusive, unkept, unemployed, but easily controlled by her mom to do anything she wanted. He also is known for selling her nudes for cash. The tipping point was when her mom forcibly moved back into the house she was no longer paying for, then began stealing groceries, money, and medical cannabis to take to her other daughter, unemployed high school dropout with 3 kids. Called her mom out. She spit on my face and called me selfish. I haven't spoken to that ex since, and looking back, I can't believe I even put myself through it. Her and her family were equally insane. Also found out after everything ended that my ex and her ex, the guy who would sneak over, were responsible for the death of their 1-month child but never charged. The world's kind of fucked up sometimes. Story 14. She was my best friend and worked with my fiancé at the time, so she was pretty close to both of us. We were going through a rough patch and I thought I could vent in trust and in confidence to my best friend, but instead she took my words and twisted them and regurgitated the bastardized version of my vent to my fiancé, in turn making the problems worse and fester, and would do the same thing with his vents to her, giving me the bastardized, twisted version of what was supposed to be his in confidence vent to a friend. Towards the end, we took a 1-week-long trip of solitude and reflection where we went camping in the middle of nowhere with no distractions, no technology for a week to talk and discuss our life together. It was during that week of discussing what had been going on recently that it came out that she was giving him a very different version of what I was venting to her about, and vice versa to me, which was causing more problems between us. We chalked it up to her own bad track record of relationships. Misery loves company after all. During that week, she started a new job at a different company, so I ended up ghosting her and blocking her number. And my fiancé didn't have to see her at work anymore, so it was pretty easy and effective to fully cut her out of our lives. I didn't need an explanation on why she was doing what she was doing, and frankly, I didn't owe her any explanation on ending the friendship based on what she was doing. Our relationship still broke down because it was irreparable at the point, but I'd never experienced such underhanded friendship in my whole life as that one. Turns out he was cheating, just not with her. And apparently one of the contentions was that he was upset that she wouldn't sleep with him despite knowing the whole time that he was cheating on me. Story 15. No cheating, but it really seemed like she was in love with her best friend. She bent over backwards for this woman, constantly, and yet every time she'd talk about her to me, it never seemed to be anything remotely positive. I never could understand why she was persisting with their friendship, plus always bad-mouthing whoever her friend was dating. Some may have deserved it, but it started to feel like a pattern, like she was jealous. I never asked, or accused, any of this. But 6 months in, it should have been sooner. It was finally crystal clear to me I wasn't going to get anywhere near the level of effort I was giving, or even half of the output she was putting into this girl. Called it off, and really felt quite good to end it. Epilogue. About 4 or 5 months ago, 2 years after I ended things, and not a word to each other since, I walked into a banh mi shop to place an order. Went to wait outside since it was busy, glanced up and at a table outside, I noticed her friend, then a familiar blonde ponytail with their back to me. Not at all interested in any interaction, even accidental. I went back into the shop, picked up my sandwich, walked a different way out of the shop to avoid passing them. Later that night at the pub, I get a private phone call. Ignore. Call again a few minutes later. Ignore. Get a voicemail. It's the friend saying to leave the ex alone, or she'd have to go to the police. I was confused, but really couldn't do anything but laugh it off and move on with my day. Frankly, they deserve each other. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.